G'day, Ben from Duck Playing Chicken here with the final video on the build of the Layzner 1/48 kit. I have gloss coated everything, done all the panel lines. Now it's the time for me to do the decals. Nothing new here, I'm just revising what I do for all my models. So I'm going to do the decals, then flat coat, and then we'll do some time lapse of me assembling parts of it, and then of course the final reveal. So talking about the decals of this kit, like I mentioned in the previous video, you get a sticker sheet of warnings. So in this kit you have a mixture of stickers and decals. So you can see I've already started applying a number of these water slide decals. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know I'm not a fan of stickers, so what I've done for these warning stickers, I've used third-party water slide decal sheets. So this one's a little bit hard to see, but it's all just white warning, so it's really good for the dark armor pieces. And this is the High Q Parts 1100 RB01. And I've also used some different ones here. This is the 1100 RB02, all these are High Q parts. And whenever I do a trip to Japan, I always stock up on these because it's definitely a cheap way to buy them. They can be a bit expensive going through other parties. And this is the RB01, but it's in a different color. It's in sort of red and white. So these are really good if you want to really add more warnings to master grade or high grade kits or whatever. They're fantastic. So I've used some of those in place of the stickers. So as far as the tools I use for doing decals, I've got some water there. I don't bother heating my water. Some people like to have their water warm. All that does is it just speeds up the time that the decals separate. For me, I've never needed to use it. And certainly these High Q Parts water slide decals, fantastic. They are really thin, they come off the backing sheet really well, they're all pre-cut, so never had any problems with those. And also the case with Bandai decals, I very rarely have an issue with those as well. So I never bother heating the water, it's just cold tap water. I've got a pair of, I believe these are Tamiya decal tweezers, and these are really good because they've got that sort of blunt edge, but they're really thin, so you can sort of get under the decal and sort of put it into the water. So I'm going to take my decals and use my tweezers and just put them in. Let them soak for a bit. Like I said, they won't take particularly long. I've also got this piece here, which I'm going to use this decal, water slide decal, which actually came from the kit. So there's only one of these that sort of goes on one of the feet pieces. I'll throw that in there. The other tools that I use, of course, cotton buds. These are really good for soaking up excess water. I use a toothpick for moving the decal around. You can blunten the end of the toothpick just so you don't accidentally, dig into the decal or rip it. Of course, a hobby knife for cutting out the decals. I think it goes without saying the instructions to show where they are. And you can see what I do when I go through my instructions. I actually highlight the ones that I've already applied. It's a little bit difficult to keep track when they're all in separate pieces, so I tend to find for me this is sort of the easiest way to go. And I've also circled all the ones that I know are going to have to be replaced by third-party decals. So that's just the method I use in doing it. And then finally I use Microset Microsol by Microscale Industries. Again, I really like the Microsol because it's not super strong. You do have to apply it in sort of several coats, but I find that it's really good if you just apply a number of coats over a number of hours. It works really well without affecting the paint or affecting you know, without sort of colour bleeding on the decals occurring. So decals being there for a bit, I'm just going to sort of try sliding them around a bit on the backing sheet with a toothpick. And I can see that they're not ready yet, they're not moving around. So given that it's 11 degrees Celsius where I am at the moment, I'm not surprised. The water's probably really cold as well, so it might take a little bit of time. So, alright, I can see those decals are starting to lift. So the great thing about this wave decal tray here is that you can soak the decals in there, but you can also sort of lift the tray up. And that way, the decals, you're not chasing them around in the water with the tweezers like I used to do when I just have it on a plate. Of course, there's nothing wrong with just using a kitchen plate, but yeah, I tend to find end up chasing the decals around the water. So I'll take the decal. I'll dab off the excess water and just slide it on to where I want it. Just manoeuvring it into position. That's it there. I think it's a little bit of an angle. There we go. And then what I'll do is I'll use the cotton bud and I'll just roll it to squeeze the water out. There we go. Now this one I need to get a decal on the side. And you can see I've used lots of blue tack for sealing up holes and stuff so I don't get paint in there. The other good thing about using blue tack is you can sort of position your piece while you're applying water slide decal. So in this case where I need to put it on the side here, I'll just use blue tack to sort of position it in place, because you really don't want to be fighting with the piece while you're fighting with the decal as well. So I should just check this one's actually lifted. Yes, it has. So you can see it doesn't take that long for the decal to come away from its backing paper. Now I am sort of making this up a bit as I go along, just trying to find something that sort of looks right to me. I mean, I dare say, given that the anime was mid-80s or something, I doubt whether they had a lot of detail on the mech in the series anyway, so I can get away with a bit of creative freedom. Alright, so for this toe one here, you can see that it just goes on the bottom. Again, I'm just going to check with this one seems to be a little bit more stubborn, but it is starting to lift. First of all, I will put some blue tack down so this piece stops fighting me. Dab off the excess water. Slide the decal on in place and then just maneuver it a little bit with the toothpick. So I'm pretty happy with that location of it. Now I can just start from the middle and roll out on each side. I can see I've got a bubble in there, I think. There's something going on. Something caught. So if you see any bubbles or anything trapped under the decal, what you want to do is put water on it and get it moving again so that you can take out any debris underneath or sort out any bubbles, because once you've sort of applied it to the surface, that's it. Now I can see there it's not quite centered. It's a bit of a hard one, this one, because it's not so I think what I'll do is I will rehydrate this, and this is why I love water slide decals, because you can do that. You can get the water on there, and once you've got that, you can start maneuvering the decal again. That's why water slide decals are so much better than stickers. You can see I've got a bit of excess water there, so I'm just going to dab a little bit off so it'll suck down onto the surface a bit better. I think that's a bit better for me visually anyway. And again, it's a matter of sort of starting from the middle and just rolling out. There we go, happy with that. Alright, the final step is to take the microsole, and in this case these decals are actually, they're really thin. They're going on relatively flat surfaces, so normally you'll use a softening solution like this if you need the decal to conform to, detailed shapes. But in this case I don't have that problem, but I still use it because it actually helps to sort of dissolve the carrier film a little bit, and it just makes it look a little bit better once you put a matte coat over it. It looks a bit more like a painted surface, and especially where you're talking about over dark parts like this. A decal, if there's any kind of bit of silvering or anything like that, it will stick out. On lighter pieces like these ones for example, if there's any silvering, because it's sort of white behind it, you're not going to notice as much, but still we're sort of putting a bit of microsole on it. And I'll let that sit for a bit, and then I might come back a bit later and just apply a little bit more microsole to it and sort of wait half an hour or so and just put a little bit more on it. That's essentially it for the process I use for decals. I'll go through, decal the rest of the pieces, then I'll put a flat coat over the top, and I will be using an SMS flat clear, and then we can get into putting this bad boy together. All the decals have been applied, matte coat put over the top of everything, so it's time for construction. Okay, I've completely assembled the kit now, and it's taken about 43 hours, so not a quick build this one. And since I painted it, it does have a few issues, and I suspect it's probably because of layers of paint and maybe things not fitting as tightly as they should once they're painted. So one of the issues that I have is that these tail fins, they're actually they can get loose on the ball joint, so you can see how freely that's moving, so you've got to sort of squeeze it back on in order for it to sort of stay. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but that's sort of one issue. The other thing is that the general joints are very tight. So the arms, the legs, the knees, everything is really super tight, and I suspect that's just because of the layers of paint that I've done. The other thing is, maybe you can see it there, the hatch doesn't quite line up properly on the top of the cockpit. Just to give you a sort of look inside. Cockpit looks alright inside, but yeah, when you close the hatch, it's actually catching on the back of the chair of the pilot, and when you sort of squeeze it down, there's a bit of a gap around the edge, so you can sort of see it there. And that was something that I didn't have prior to painting it, so I don't think it's an issue with the kit. I think it's just, yeah, you know, everything's sort of a bit you know, with layers of paint on it, the fit's not as good as when I assembled it prior to painting. The kit looks really good. I'm really happy with the choice of colours I chose. I didn't go with sort of a really light purple. This is almost a blue, and I think it kind of works a lot better. The weapon is pretty cool. There's not sort of much going on. For the camera, I painted that clear red and then did a silver on the back of it, so that way at least it would show up a little bit better. All the decals went down really well, no issues with the decals. So overall I'm pretty happy with it. It would be nice if I could pose it better, just because, yeah, with all these really tight joints and everything, it's going to be a bit harder to sort of pose. We'll see how we go. All the sort of gimmicks still work, so you can sort of see what when I was painting, I talked about how you could hardly see underneath there, and I was spot on. So that's as far as that door will open. These inner doors also open, and again you can see very little sort of detail in there once they're open. Even on the arms, these little hatches that open up, again there's very little detail that you can actually see. These little hoses on the side of the hand, I didn't show any video footage of it, but I actually tested the paint on the rubber, and it kind of worked and kind of didn't, so I thought I'd play it safe and not paint these at all, and I think it's fine unpainted, so I didn't even bother putting an enamel wash over it. It's such a sort of minor thing. Yeah, I think it's a reasonable kit. Sort of somewhere between a master grade and high grade gunpla kit. It's got a few gimmicks like a master grade, but it's a pretty straightforward build. It's not at all complex. So yeah, good fun. Alright, time for the glamour shots, and until the next build series, I will catch you later.